love from the dead. However, all of his classmates pretended as if he didn't exist. But when he dropped his eraser, the hottest girl in the school gave it back to him. So her fan club assaulted him after class and beat the disgusting face to the ground before screaming at him to never stare at their princess ever again. Even while trying to help his teacher, one of the girls tried sneaking up to kill him, but pretended as if she was helping his pathetic ass when Ayaka arrived. And so he continued living his miserable life being abused by his classmates, until one day while taking out the trash, he saw a mysterious rabbit ear in the garbage can. But as he took it out, the note said that the weather was clear with a chance of buildings falling, so when he looked up, he saw that the clock tower was collapsing directly onto him. Not a single time in his life was he able to hold a girl's hand, but after the tower crushed him down, he woke up in Ayaka's arms, seeing they were flying above the destruction from the tower. At the same time, the girl who tried killing him snapped her fingers to summon 2 rabbit knights, so Ayaka threw Hanoka away, dodging their swords as she engulfed them in flames. And before Hanoka's miserable life would end, she cushioned his fall with her massive missiles. Even so, the bunnies rose from the flames, so she evaded both of their attacks and used her broom to knock them away, before unleashing Hell's Inferno to burn them. But when they leapt back, she casted a fire blast to knock them away. However, the bunnies continued rushing forward, so Ayaka attempted to activate her flaming landmines. But while they used their agility to keep charging, she flashed away to burn one of them to a crisp. At the same time, a cat girl tried calling for Hanoka to follow her, so being a brain-dead moron like always, he ran after her into the alley. Just then, Ayaka began activating her S-rank fire spell, bursting the bunnies down into flames, but realized that Hanoka had disappeared. Before his eyes, an army of rabbits restrained him, and their leader put his head down to execute the worthless loser. None of this seemed real, so as Hanoka began wondering if he was dreaming, all of the rabbits were lit ablaze. After picking him up, Ayaka warned him to stay closer to her, but he thought that she was beautiful even in his dreams, since she would never save him when he was awake. But she revealed that it was her mission to protect her princess. However, Hanoka wondered if he heard that last part right. But before he could check to see if his dick was burned off, he saw one of the robots rushing towards her. So trying to prove that he really was a man, with a full 3 inches, he rushed forward using his manly power to protect her.
Oh! He needs some milk!
As Ayaka tried making sure that he was okay, Hanoka realized that size mattered after all, so Ayaka suffocated him in her massive cannons, apologizing for not having burnt them to dust yet. As the bunnies stood back up, she began awakening her inner demon blaze, commanding her million clovers to incinerate all of them. These devastating flames had earned her the title Fire Witch, but when Hanoka woke up from his coma in a different place, Ayaka revealed that he was in her private room. But as he wondered if he was dreaming, she told him that he wasn't, and revealed that she'd been secretly protecting him all this time. As they walked back home, she promised to always be by his side from now on, and walked next to him without saying another word for the rest of the day. The following morning, as the loser thought he was back to his worthless life, Ayaka came up to him on the bus, asking to sit next to him. And as she kept staying by his side, all the girls wished he would end his miserable life, and the gaze from all of his classmates made him sick. But as he tried leaving for the bathroom, Ayaka's fan club kicked his worthless body away, threatening to kill him if he kept staying by her side. However, Ayaka appeared at that moment, commanding them to let Hanoka go before fixing his collar, and telling him that she would burn anyone who ever harmed him again. But their anger didn't end during lunch, and when they started screaming at the princess to get away from the ugly loser that smelled like an anime convention, Ayaka took her wiener out and shoved it down his throat. However, he was tired of everyone planning his murder, so as he ran away, he wondered when this miserable day would end, until he saw the restored courtyard where the tower fell. Just then, the cat girl appeared, telling him that it was all illusion magic. She had been testing him out to make sure he was harmless, and after getting closer to his face, she unleashed her wings, introducing herself as Kuriashi. But before she could grab him away, Ayaka's flames burnt her off. However, Kuriashi summoned her robotic army, revealing that she wouldn't be losing this time since her army was 10 times bigger. All of the knights began aiming forward along with the lancers, so Ayaka put Hanoka's body onto the ground before all of them ran to explode on top of her. A few moments later, Hanoka began regaining consciousness, seeing that Ayaka's body had been completely torn apart, and screamed at her for sacrificing herself for him. Hearing his words, she wondered why he would be mad when he's safe, but Hanoka realized that he hasn't listened to her this entire time, and was the reason that caused her to be hurt. Because of that, he realized that he should believe in her no matter what. But as he started screaming for an ambulance, she told him that she was made of fire, asking him to close his eyes if he truly believed in her. As soon as he did, Ayaka's flames began to engulf her body, and while all the bunnies were struggling to jump down, a massive explosion blew them all away, with Ayaka appearing in her second form. None of the robots were able to withstand the heat, and as Ayaka commanded her to burn to nothing, Kuriashi managed to escape. After she was gone, Hanoka opened his eyes again, realizing that Ayaka was back in her normal uniform. While walking back home with her, he apologized for not shoving her wiener deeper down his throat, but they kept walking silently with one another once again. The following day, the teacher announced that there would be 5 new transfer students entering their class: Kuriashi Tanpopo, Kazari Rin, Katsura Kotsu, Mei Menoa, and Utsugi Kana. However, Hanoka wondered how more of them appeared, and Ayaka told him that they're exactly what he thought they were, bitch. So the next day, as he began riding off to school, he realized that Ayaka wasn't on the bus with him, and began wondering if she was attacked by them. However, when he arrived in class, he realized that she had already captured the rival witches, and was about to smoke them alive, revealing that this was a witch hunt, as she thought the best way to keep him safe was to eliminate the enemies. When Kiriashi began trying to speak, Hanoka asked Ayaka to remove her gag, hoping he would discover why they were trying to capture him. As she did, Kiriashi began saying that she just wanted to be friends with him, but even Hanoka's useless brain wasn't going to fall for her lies. Trying to appear brave, he decided to ask her why they wanted to capture him, but Kiriashi thought his question was as worthless as his face. However, she decided to reveal that they actually wanted his body, especially the white stuff inside of him. Hearing her words, Hanoka began freaking out, because he was still a hopeless, disgusting virgin who had never thought he would ever get laid. At that moment, dark ink began dripping down from the ceiling, but as May appeared above them, she captured Hanoka immediately. She was the last one of the group, and as she cast a wall before Ayaka, she freed the girls, and vanished into the floor. As she realized she was safe, May began thinking her plan worked out perfectly, having already paralyzed Hanoka's body with a spell. But while she was still celebrating her success, flames spewed down from the ceiling, and she realized that Ayaka had somehow neutralized her poison, after already burning the other witches. As she began approaching her, May threatened to kill Hanoka with her witch wolf, but Ayaka wouldn't back away, as she threatened to burn her until there was nothing left of her. However, as May grew desperate, her wolf bit into Hanoka's neck, but his body exploded with a flame, sending him rolling away. Just then, May realized that the bite mark actually transferred to Ayaka's body, but disappeared before she would get burned. Later that day, after Hanoka woke up, he noticed that his wound had healed, but realized that Ayaka was wearing a scarf around her neck. This was to conceal her neck wound, but she told him that she was trying to stay warm for the weather. She told him that he would never be safe with the witches lurking around, and said that they were better off eliminating the superior witches behind the attacks. Realizing that she was putting her life in danger because of him, Hanoka begged her to make him her apprentice, and asked her to reveal the truth behind the attacks, but she thought it was too early to reveal the secret god inside of him. The following day, as they met in the street, looking to spend the weekend together, Hanoka realized her cannons were truly massive. As they began walking through an alley, Ayaka decided to reveal that she was employed by a workshop to protect him from the Tower Witches, an evil colony of witches whose only desire was to create chaos in the world. Their only goal was to awaken the Demon King, and would turn the entire world into a catastrophe if they managed to obtain the white thing inside of him. After arriving inside a store, Hanoka helped Ayaka in carrying her bags like a fucking maid. But when he noticed a girl crying, he tried helping her to find her family. However, it was just another trap from a new witch who realized he was exactly the same person on her wanted poster. So she knocked the girl aside, but as Ayaka arrived, she drew her blade and took him down immediately. At the same time, two other witches appeared, but when Hai told them that Ayaka was a workshop witch, they revealed their true form at that instant. However, Ayaka was unfazed by their presence and unleashed a massive flame around them before throwing them at the ceiling. As Hanoka escaped with the help of the distraction, he saved the girl from getting nailed. So as Ayaka decided to protect them, Hai began shooting at her, but she shielded with her cape. By the time she ran out of bullets, Hai tried using her blade, but it was already overheated from Hanoka's flames. Just then, she spilled all the bullets and blasted the useless girls away in the most convenient positions possible. So as they realized they stood no chance against Ayaka, Hai fired a rope into the roof, and managed to escape with the rest of the losers. As they began to leave, Ayaka told Hanoka that she's accepted becoming his mistress, but said that the battle wouldn't end until the witch boss was defeated. By the time they arrived at school, Ayaka revealed that their school was secretly a witch workshop, a hidden residence that was built for witches. But when they arrived inside the principal's office, she began wondering why they were so late. As she came closer, she revealed that Ayaka was actually her daughter, telling him that she'll teach him how to become her new apprentice. But the only thing Hanoka learned was where Ayaka got her massive tip. A few days later, as Kiriashi and her squad ambushed Hanoka on his way to school, Ayaka told Hanoka to watch from the side like a useless ugly dog. As the girls began charging towards her in their rapid stream formation, she turned her broom, exploding them into the sky. But Hanoka wished she would explode him already. That day in school, Hanoka wondered why Ayaka didn't have love letters filling her locker. But as he opened his own locker, a pile of letters fell on top of him. But instead of being filled with love, they were all death threats and voodoo dolls to erase his disgusting existence, and Ayaka knew it must have been her fan club members. When they arrived in class, Ayaka gave him a pile of books to read, telling him that it was the start of his training. But as her hot face and body pushed up on him, he realized everyone wanted to murder his ass. Later at the tennis court, the instructor decided to pair up Hanoka with Ayaka. But while the 2-incher was still afraid of being close to her, Ayaka told him that it was also part of his training. As the game began, she kept smacking the ball back to the opponents, but Hanoka missed every one of his shots, and by the time the game was over, he was already gassed out. However, she picked him up and pushed her massive cannons onto him, showing him how to hold his rod. While returning home, Ayaka noticed a magical fish flying around the bus, but as the next stop changed to dead end, she tried protecting Hanoka, realizing an enemy was inside. At that moment, sunlight revealed their bodies, but Ayaka realized that the bus was moving on its own. Right then, darkness began spreading across the windows, so the lady approached them, but her magic ocean expanded at the same time. She was Kronwar, a powerful tower witch that was renowned for her witchcraft powers. But as Ayaka tried covering Hanoka, Kronwar froze her with a spell, and tried blowing up her body, but realized that Ayaka was unscathed. Immediately, Hanoka decided to protect her, but she called him a clueless moron, because no matter what attack she made, Ayaka's flaming body couldn't be damaged. Just then, Kronwar stabbed him in the belly, but as he began screaming from the injury, he realized that he had healed up again. This made no sense to him, but as he began wondering if it was an illusion, Ayaka passed out at that moment. As he noticed her injury, he realized that his wound actually transferred to her body. Kronwar revealed that Ayaka already performed a damage transfer spell, and would continue getting injured every time he's attacked. Before he knew it, the other witch seized him, so Kronwar told him that Ayaka already borrowed his power to become invincible, and that they were connected by a strong bond. She said that his best shot at saving her was to share the rest of his magical power with her, and revealed a dark orb for him to swallow. She told him that it would unleash his power, but Hanoka knew that it was a trap. When she tried putting it into his mouth, a green flame erupted, as Ayaka managed to rescue him. But as she was still too weak, she passed out again. However, she told him that this wasn't enough to stop her, and as green roots began appearing across her body, she told him to close his eyes, and to keep thinking of her. The dormant witch's power began awakening, kicking Kronwar's throat, and revealing her flaming plant demon. But as the fires burned Kronwar, she promised to return for her revenge. At dusk, when Hanoka woke up, he discovered that Ayaka was unconscious, and managed to take her to the hospital. While inside, he realized that Kronwar had slipped the orb into his pocket, but decided to hide it inside his drawer. A few days later, as Hanoka decided to continue with the training, she told him to jump as high as he could. So as he ran towards her, he tried jumping over, but the cape helped him to fly high, and raised him to the ceiling. But as he grew afraid and began to fall, Ayaka managed to catch him, revealing that the cape made them lighter than feathers. In an instant, she summoned her broomstick, and told him to summon his. However, the professor of quantum physics couldn't imagine holding a long rod, since the only rod he's ever held was his 2-inch persuasion.
Out of pocket for that shit. Way out of pocket.
Just then, the students began entering the gym, but as Hanoka started freaking out, afraid of getting noticed, Ayaka told him that the robe protects them from being seen by anyone. Before long, they began trying to find a new place to train, but as Ayaka thought that Hanoka was afraid of heights, she began running off with him, bent on making him lose his fear. As she flew away on her broom, she circled around the school, and eventually took off towards the sky. She continued through the city, and even flying in between towers, before they eventually rested on a railing. While watching the sunset, Hanoka thought it was beautiful, but his lazy ass eventually fell asleep. A few minutes later, after waking up on the flying broom, he noticed a group of girls bullying his classmate. But when he suggested they rescue her, Ayaka told him that her duty was to protect the town from bad witches. If he was too bothered by the bullies, she suggested he calls the police instead, saying that she couldn't afford to put him in danger. However, Hanoka decided to play hero, and luckily summoned his broomstick at that instant. So he leapt towards the ground, but his moronic brain soon realized that he couldn't actually fly the broom. Luckily, as Ayaka decided to unleash her power, he managed to command the broom, but the backlash of the wind wrecked the entire area. As he began flying through the city, barely maneuvering his way through traffic, he eventually crashed into the bullies. However, he was still a weak loser who couldn't get his act up, so one of the bullies sat on top of him, ready to make him pay for his actions. As they began wondering if he was some Walmart Harry Potter and were about to kill him, Ayaka appeared behind them and unleashed her inferno spell, leaving them burnt alive. When Hanoka wondered why she killed innocent citizens, she told him that it was a trap to lure him out, and revealed that they were tower witches. On the other hand, Kuriashi and the rest of her squad were wondering how they could finally defeat Ayaka. But as Rin suggested they attack Hanoka when he was finally alone, Kronwar appeared before them, offering her support. By the next day, as Hanoka began preparing for school, his sister Kasumi tried asking who his secret crush is. She already suspected that he was hanging out with the school princess, but Hanoka was afraid of revealing their secret, and called it a coincidence. As he started heading to school, Kasumi began following him like a crazy stalker, but with the bus about to leave, he began running towards it, until he tripped on a rope. Just then, Kuriashi appeared before him, flanked by 2 bunnies. At the same time, Ayaka had been cornered by the rest of the squad, and Mei began saying that they already figured out her power, and have come to eliminate her once and for all. So she drew her whip, and they attacked at the same time. On the other hand, Hanoka had successfully been restrained, and Kuriashi began telling him that Ayaka has also been captured. The previous day, when Kronwar visited the girls, she had suggested they separate Ayaka from Hanoka, revealing that it was the only way to make Ayaka's magic grow weaker. So with their plans having succeeded, Kuriashi commanded her witch bunnies to take Hanoka away. But in a flash, they were wiped out, and as a giant appeared in the city, they realized it was actually a teddy bear. While Hanoka was still in shock, he realized that Kasumi was in control of the teddy, and discovered that she's also a witch. She had come to save his sorry ass, and directed her teddy to hurl the captured bunnies away. However, as Kuriashi grew angry, she decided to create her own giant-sized bunny, looking to even the fight. So as she rushed forward, she bumped into the teddy, but it managed to steady itself. Ready to retaliate, it raced towards the bunny and clotheslined it, knocking it to the ground. With the teddy ready to attack again, the bunny began begging for mercy, afraid of getting its ass kicked. But as the teddy let down its guard, the bunny poked its eyes, causing it to reel back. To utilize this advantage, the bunny rushed at it. But as it dodged its attack, the teddy appeared in front of it and tried suplexing it. Luckily, the bunny managed to land, but as it flew with a kick, the teddy began spinning it around, eventually throwing it at the transmission lines. But as the bunny bounced back, the teddy missed its kick and got poked in the neck. Before it could recover, the sick bunny spilled a green mist at its face, and using the transmission lines as wrestling ropes, it returned with a blow. But the teddy punched its useless face and sent it reeling back, until it eventually fell down. While Kasumi was gloating over her victory, a bone dinosaur knocked her teddy from behind, but it managed to regain its balance. So as the bunny re-emerged to make it a 2-on-1 fight, the teddy began expanding, until it reached into the sky. As the bunny and dinosaur began attacking its foot like tiny ants, Kasumi revealed that she would never fail in her duty to protect her weak and useless brother, so she smashed them, causing an explosion in the city. At the same time, the principal tried relaxing in her office, but as she turned on the TV, she realized that half of the city had been destroyed. On the other hand, Kuriashi and Rin managed to survive the explosion, and their bunnies escaped with them. So as Kasumi descended to the ground, Honoka thanked her for saving his ass, but she told him that she has always protected him every time he was away from Ayaka. Right then, Honoka realized that Ayaka had not arrived, and began saying that they must rescue her immediately. But Kasumi revealed that she was safe already. As the teddy set her down, Honoka began wondering if she was wounded. But Kasumi grew angry that he didn't care as much about her. However, Ayaka thought her presence was irrelevant, and began telling Honoka that she would protect him every second of the day, saying that she would move into his room. At school, the principal discovered that Medusa, the second strongest witch in the realm, had escaped after several decades in prison. Later that day, as Honoka's mother thanked Ayaka for always saving her son's ass, she decided to reveal that Ayaka was actually his fiancé, and that they have been betrothed to each other even before they were born. She had patiently waited for this very day, and was glad that she would finally kick him out, forcing him to become a real man. Just then, Kasumi grew angry, and began saying that she wants a piece of Honoka, but as they thought she was an ugly bitter bitch, Honoka hurried off with Ayaka. After getting far away from Kasumi, Honoka used his classic Reddit pickup line, saying roses are red, just like your lips, and mountains are massive, just like your tit. Sorry, I meant he said roses are red, lemons are sour, lift your skirt up and give me an hour. However, she revealed that they might have known each other for much longer than they actually remember.